It just feels like you're tickling the front line from Milk's side at this point. And Goose,
I think he's dead.
it's a double kill.
It is. Ah, the delayed damage came through it. 2, 2, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over what recently happened in the NA Regional Finals. So in case you didn't watch it, Milk, also known as Delicious Milk GG, recently won the NA Set 6.5 Regional Finals. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys 10 things that he did differently in order to secure his victory. So for this video, I've gone over 3 of his VODs, taken notes on everything that I saw, and here are 10 things that stood out to me the most. At the beginning of the game, Milk starts Nocturne with a bow and immediately is given a Nocturne 2. However, unlike 99% of people watching this, he doesn't immediately make that Nocturne 2. Instead, he leaves his options open. The reason he does this is because he doesn't know what's going to come out of these creeps. For example, let's say that he gets a Lucky Vex, he might want to hold on to that Ziggs instead, or if he gets some Merc units, then he might want to hold on to the Alawi. Regardless, he ends up making the Nocturne 2 because he's not given any better options, but this small detail could have changed his game had he been given other options. When playing around Sins early, it's important that you're landing on high value targets so that you can assassinate them. By centering his positioning like this, Milk is giving his enemies no information as well as incentivizing them to go into corner positions, assuming that he might default to center. As you can see here, he successfully lands on the left side, landing exactly where he wanted to, making sure that he's taking out the back line before moving on to the front line. Most people just swap their units last second, however I do like Milk's approach in a tournament environment where he knows that everyone's going to be scouting his board, as like I said, it's forcing them to corner their units, whilst you can see Milk has enough time to choose the correct side in the last few seconds while scouting. At Krug's, Milk has dropped a gold orb which actually gives him 2 4-cost units. Because he's already playing AD with the Last Whisper Slam, he immediately sells the Ahri and then considers holding on to this Orianna. But soon after, you'll see that because he gets a brand 2, he ends up needing to sell the Orianna for Econ. The reason he does this is because there's no way of getting the Orianna onto his board anytime soon, and he knows that the Orianna won't provide a huge spike into his board until earliest stage 4, and even then it's unlikely that he's going to get an Orianna 2-star anytime soon, especially with his Econ. It's important to know the power of 4-costs and when they fit your board, and in this case they both definitely didn't, and Milk understanding this allows him to make a lot more Econ without leaving his options open when he doesn't really need to. Unfortunately for Milk, his stage 3 was really rough because he was stuck on 1-cost upgrades and couldn't really transition his board into something better. He did go to 7 quite early and roll, however, what he's going to do in stage 4 is continue to aggressively roll down. The reason he's doing this and not trying to go 8 with a small chance of getting 4-cost 2-stars is that he's already way too low HP. A very common mistake I'll see players make is try and go to level 8 and then they'll be 1 to 2 life with very little gold anyway. Instead, it's much better to just gamble on rolling quite deep at level 7 so that you can have a strong stage 4. Sure, you might not get as many 4-cost 2-stars, but as long as you're saving a lot of HP, you'll eventually be able to go level 8 anyway. Essentially what it is gambling on hitting your 4 costs at 7 can sometimes be better than going 8 with 10 to 20 gold. Because Milk's playing 6 Striker Sivir with Runins, he has no desire to stall out the fights, and it's for this reason that he actually doesn't prioritize frontline items or units very much at all. You can see here he has the option of going for a Warmogs or even a ZZ Rot, but instead goes towards the Ziggs because he knows he doesn't have a frontline regardless of his items, and instead it's much more beneficial for Sivir to try and shred down the enemy team as fast as possible. This is similar to last set where you would prioritize support items for Yone rather than worrying about tank items. In most sets you'll see fast paced comps, and in this one it's 6 Striker. Running 3 Socialite with a Striker comp is pretty common because not only is Na a Socialite, but the other 2 Socialite units are really good, and 3 Socialite is definitely a really good buff to have on your main carry. However, you can see here, by the time he gets to 9, he manages to get an Orianna 2-star, which creates a really good ulti for late game teamfights. And also, Milk is running Celestial Blessing too, which means that he definitely doesn't need the extra healing on his Sivir. Maybe if it was Aurelia on the Socialite, you could justify running double healing, However, most of the time you're not going to need it. Now this doesn't mean that you just drop 3 socialite when you're running a healing augment. However, it does mean to consider that if you do have better options, you need to be paying attention to them, and Milk definitely sees this as soon as he gets his Oriana too. Milk's first augment is Striker Heart. The reason he takes this is because it's clearly one of his comfort comps and he did in fact start Glove. Now just because he gets the Striker augment does not mean that he has to play Strikers in the early game. Instead what you'll see is he opts in for Yordle Lost Streak strat and instead sells the Rek'Sai in order to try and buy other units and make Econ. Too many people I see either get something like a Challenger Heart, a Chemtech Heart, and they think that they're forced into that comp from the very get-go, even though they're offered better alternatives. This can be other upgraded units, or in Milk's case, an Econ trait such as Yordles. Not only will this set him up for a better stage 3 because he won't be ping-ponging with his win-losses, but also he'll be making enough Econ whilst getting pick priority because his items aren't that great for strikers anyway. On top of this, Na is a striker, and so if you play Yordles you can usually lean into it quite comfortably. Remember that you don't want to deviate too far away from your augments, so Milk doing this makes a lot of sense when you consider all of these factors. When you're running 6 striker, you usually will dual carry Aurelia and Sivir, and despite the fact that Milk's already got an Aurelia 2-star, he instead opts to get best in slot items for his Sivir. This is because Sivir is a lot more picky when it comes to what items she can utilize efficiently. So he picks up the Runins for Sivir, but he knows that he has more items coming at Raptors. However, because Aurelia can utilize a wider range of items, he knows that by securing at least 2 out of 3 on both of his star carries, he's more likely to be able to place 3 items on his carry, if not both of the carry. And as you can see, he gets a blue buff for his Aurelia, which means that at the next carousel, he's going to have 3 items on both of his main carries. This is much better than had he gone for an Aurelia item, despite the fact that Aurelia was 2-starred. Milk unfortunately only hits 1 upgrade, however because he started Treasure Trove, he has the ability to push levels and play aggressive whilst making good econ. Originally he scouts around to see that there's multiple Yordle players as well as a Merc player, so he knows that by pushing levels here it's a really good chance to dish out a lot of extra damage. Normally you wouldn't go for a Zeke Slam straight away, however it's clearly very beneficial to his comp and he wants to dish out as much damage as possible. Remember that challengers are really good at winning fights and they're really bad at losing them. So by slamming the Zeeks he can punish players by killing them with as many units as possible, which is really important when the rest of the lobby seems to be playing eco. He then hits a Twitch 2 and a talent in his next shop, and again similar to before, he's going to go 5 on this turn so that he can dish out even more damage. Remember that he could have made 10 here and still probably kept his win streak against some of the weaker opponents, but it's all about doing that extra damage now when it's not costing you that much econ to not make 10 on 2-2. However, when the lobby starts to get stronger and they start hitting their upgrades, he goes on a 2 loss streak, and as you can see here, he actually sells his Caitlyn in order to make this 30. The reason is because it's fine going on a 3 loss streak, in fact it's actually better, so by hitting the 30 mark he can set himself up for a much better stage 3. You can see by mixing in and out the priority he places on tempo and punishing HP versus making econ thresholds is very much like a chameleon as he's adapting to the situation of his lobby. When you're low HP in TFT, you enter desperation mode, and every play you're doing is to try and secure 1 extra placement rather than going for first. You can see this with Milk as he has his final striker board, and whilst it's quite decent, it's only at 4 striker. You might think luckily enough when the carousel comes around there's a striker spat, however because he doesn't have the gold or HP to ensure that he can pivot to a comfortable 6 striker board, he instead goes for something which benefits him immediately. This ends up paying off as there was a good chance he wasn't even going to hit 6 striker anyway. Not only does this boost him up a couple placement, but it actually secures him a top 2. And that is the end of the video, guys. Make sure you go check out Delicious Milk GG over on Twitch. The links will be down below in the description. Thank you so much to everyone for watching this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you have any comments or concerns, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. And with all that being said, I look forward to seeing you in the next one.